Welcome, everybody, to Midday Magazine for this April 2nd, 2025. I have your host, James J. Malouf here. We're going to spend the entire hour with our friends over at the Wood County Sheriff's Department. We have with us Sheriff Shawn Becker. Shawn, always good to see you.
Great to see you. Always a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for the time. And you brought in Lieutenant Wagner, who's been with us before. Thank you for being here, Lieutenant. We appreciate the time, as always. And I will be honest with both of you. You have all my respect, all my admiration. At the same time, all I want to do is talk to Lola, because Lola is here as well from the K9 unit. Is that correct, Lieutenant?
That is correct.
Yeah. So we'll talk more about that in a moment, I imagine. But where'd you want to start, Shawn?
Let's start with the jail. And again, people probably used to, us talking about it, but we had a big move on Saturday, the 22nd, working with Susanna and then Jail Captain Ted Ashbeck. We were getting closer and closer to getting the opportunity to occupy the new facility. So we looked at it and we picked the 22nd being a Saturday. It worked out best for us. We knew that we were going to have to either do it on a weekend or an evening, some sort of evening when the courthouse is closed. So Ted and Susanna put together a plan. I'm like, okay, this is how we can accomplish getting everybody moved from the old jail into the new jail. Fortunately, the facility's connected. So we just basically utilized, our staff, and many of our correction staff made sure that they were all in place. And then we had deputies that had come in. All of our administration team was there. We had several K9 units there. Made sure that all the other law enforcement agencies were aware that, hey, this is what's going on. Same with the fire department, just in case we wanted to make sure that all the contingency plans were in place in case something happened. And I tell you what, everybody did an awesome job. We moved probably about 10 people at a time, and we had 101 inmates to move, and we accomplished that in about 4 hours. So, and it's really all about the staff, and having that plan in place ahead of time. And we were meeting, I think, daily, 2 weeks before we picked this date. All right, let's just start. What do we need? How many people do we need? Again, talking about contingency plans. When are we going to move all the inmates from Wapaka? And another thing to bring up, all the inmates from Wapaka are now within this facility. So everybody should know that we will not be paying out-of-county housing, at least in my lifetime.
Right on.
If we have to, it's going to be way, way down the road, and I really don't think it's ever going to have to happen again for Wood County.
I only had a couple questions for you today because you bring so much to the table always, but that was one of those. I was curious about that, how that was developing, and we're already there.
Yeah,
wow.
We are. And that was the pre-planning. I thought initially that, all right, we would bring all the inmates from Wapaka back first, but then talking with Susanna and Ted, it made more sense. Hey, let's get everybody from the old facility into the new one, get operational, and then bring them back gradually. They did an awesome job we contracted 75 inmates per day. And what we had been doing in Wapaka has been a great partner. They would charge us whatever we had for inmates there. And so like the last, I'd say month or so, even longer, we kept bringing more people back. So we knew when we got to that date, the goal was April 1st. We're not going to have anybody in Wapaka anymore. And they accomplished that just by kind of gradually bringing back here. Our inmate population went over 100, and that's a lot just in our facility. But what we were doing is bringing people back. I think once we occupied with the inmates that were in our jail, we were down to like the low 40s. So Carrie Stern did an awesome job. She's our main transport officer that had been going back and forth to Wapaka numerous times a day just to make sure everybody's getting back.
It's really good news to hear.
Yeah.
And especially considering, for decades, this was a big part of the argument of why we needed a new jail. To see this happen, and I can't speak on this on a timeline-wise, but to me as a citizen, it feels relatively quickly that not only the process happened, but even getting this done seemed to be happening. So a credit to everybody involved.
Yeah, it's been a time to really reflect on that process that, you and I have talked about for how many years?
7, 8. I mean, it's been a while.
It's been just something that it makes it surreal in a way, and like I've always said, and hopefully people aren't sick of me hearing about it. But I was talking to one of our county board members this morning, Al Bry, and over a different situation, and then I just gave him an update, and then just to show the appreciation that we all have, not just me, but our entire staff have for our county board doing what they did, and then just getting the opportunity to reflect on, okay, how it started. And it was just a true testament to, and a compliment to our county board members. And I told him, I think that's really, because he goes, I didn't really get much, opposition. And I go, what does that tell you? That tells you that what we did and what he did, because he was on our ad hoc committee as well for the jail, getting out in the community and explaining the reasons why, the needs, and what's been going on for so long. And that's a huge compliment to all of our county board, Lance Plummel, Laura Valenstein, everybody part of the jail hoc committee, and our entire county board. And even when new people got on the county board, that had gotten elected in because people had stepped aside or they beat an incumbent, the continued support, for the project just says a lot about Wood County. You look at other counties that struggle, especially when elections change, your county boards, and then you kind of start over. That didn't happen here, and we're very fortunate here in Wood County to move in the direction that we are, and we're all very, very appreciative of it.
I second that. And before I bring in Lieutenant Wagner here, I did this wrong. I apologize. I will say that I was distracted by Lola. And I'm actually being very genuine there with you guys, because I just, dogs do that to me. But I did want to shout out Wisconsin Rapids Community Media being here recording this. Appreciate the work they're doing over there. Encourage you, as always, to go to your YouTube page, subscribe to the work that they are doing. And while you're there and subscribing to that, check out a cool new program that they're doing over there with the Heart of Wisconsin Chamber. I saw it yesterday. It was a great video, great information on that, and there's going to be more stuff like that from them. They're working really hard over there. Support local, everybody. Sure, we did bring in Lieutenant Wagner here. I want to put her to work. I mean, talk to her.
Yeah, I've been doing all the talking now. The rest of the show is hers.
No pressure. No. That stand-up bit you've always wanted to do, Lieutenant Wagner. Now we can finally do it. Now we can.
No swearing, and you can't pick on me.
Well, and I don't have much to say.
Oh, the poor, what material is she going to have now? Thank you for being here, Lieutenant. I appreciate the time.
Thanks for having us.
So you brought her in for a reason, though. We have a tie into things, so we want to get to.
I felt that she's been a big part of this whole process and was there, that entire day when we did the move. And I think her perspective is going to be really important to hear for everybody, because, I was there, but I was, really part of the escorting inmates, to the old facility to the new one, and she had and Ted and the rest of that, all right, once everybody got over to the new facility, had to make sure that was running. And then even going back, I mean, her part was, along with many of our other staff, is you have people working in the old facility, because, even all the other law enforcement agencies, we weren't closed. So if we had somebody that needed to come to jail, we had to make sure we had that accommodation ready to go, and we communicated that out with everybody. And we didn't have a bookend in that morning, but you were kind of running the old jail, getting inmates ready, and handcuffing them, getting them all together, and then we had a process going over escorting with multiple people. But that was a big part of her being part of the old jail functioning and then transitioning over once everybody's there. And now we got to run the new jail. So it's your turn to talk.
Okay.
How did that process go from your perspective?
Well, I was on the side of the old jail, so my job was to lead the crews to removing, getting the inmates to get their property together that they needed, and getting them ready to get hooked up for in shackles and cuffs, and help calm them, because a lot of them did have anxiety moving to a new place. They didn't know, they had no idea what it looked like, or what was, going to happen, really, because with a lot of things we do keep quiet just for security reasons. However, Lola was there, and she was very helpful during that time and transition. From our side, it went pretty smoothly. So
I have to say right away that I appreciate the care put into this to the inmates. That is something it says more about us as people than anything. I think it's certainly the right thing to do. And all that being said, we show who we really are, our character, the way we treat people in those situations, and I really admire that. I also love hearing this perspective on this because I don't think that that's insight we get very often.
I was speaking with somebody who had been part of a transition into a new facility like we did, and she brought it to my attention that it was something that we should be reminded of because it's, we're all gung-ho, ready, excited, can't wait to get in there, but then, we forget, we expect the inmates to be excited about it, but really it's all the unknown to them, so we just, said, gave them the best, advice and just said, hey, it's going to be okay. And, the other, we let them know who was waiting for them on the other, at the new facility. So they knew the officers that were working, and it just helped calm them.
And you mentioned Lola was a part of this. That was helpful too.
Yes, Lola was there and just accepting all the pets and loving that she could get. And, she definitely enjoyed it.
I think of this with her and certainly with you guys too. There's not enough bright spots in your day, in your career, to take wins where we can is noteworthy and needed for Lola as well as you guys and everything. So that's really encouraging to hear, really good to hear. And especially with so many moving parts. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I worked a lot of construction jobs where you're taking this to another lot or something like that and moving things. Or even I worked at a shoe company once where we moved all the shoes from one store to one completely on the other side of town and everything. And then there's something like this.
Right.
Nobody has any real, there's not a real blueprint for a lot of this. There's not as if you can just Google her, and find out, hey, how did other people do this or something. So to pull this off with all that being said, just well done. Kudos. That's incredible to everybody involved. That's a good thing for all of us as a community. And again, speaks to why this is something that we've wanted for a long time, this new jail.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a credit to our staff and the pre-planning of, hey, we just couldn't say, okay, today we're going to do it and then do it. There was a lot of communication that went on, within, our department to plan out. And then this doesn't happen very often, thankfully. But the need was there, and again, I'm really proud of our staff, working together and getting moved over, and now we're operational. And it's not easy, for our staff. I'll be honest with you. I know that people are still struggling a bit because you look at an old facility that's linear design, and what worries me is, okay, now we have 4 floors. The old jail was 1 floor. And it gave the opportunity to probably spend more time together. They did their job, but they all kind of, hung out, I wouldn't say, or worked together at like the booking counter, the jail control area, kind of centrally located. Now with a 4-level facility, people can get, isolated a bit. We're only going to have 2 people on this floor, 2 people on that floor. But I know the staff is working very hard. They're learning the new facility and doing an outstanding job with it. But I know that's been creating stress amongst our team, and we understand that. And going through this process, Kurt Bernier from the Samuels Group was really representing the company and us as we went forward with this project. He made it very clear that the staff is going to struggle a bit once you get into the facility because it's so different, and he's right. Everybody is. It's different, but as people learn things, I think I know they appreciate the opportunity to be in a new facility because that doesn't happen very often, especially the people that make a career out of corrections. Being in one facility, if you look at it, a lot of people that have retired have contacted us and just want to see it because they're used to being in the old facility and they never got the opportunity to work in the new facility. And for them to reach out, like Tim Havak, a great friend of ours, we've reached out to him numerous times just to come and be part of it, come and see it. And I think he wants to spend more time in the old jail and take some pictures of it because where honestly all his memories are, but I think he also appreciates the fact of, putting in over 30 years in corrections, and then, having that next step in life, that awesome retirement that you saved up for, but you still want to be a part of it. It says a lot about the individual, and appreciate Tim wanting to be a part of it. But he's not the only one. A lot of retirees have reached out, throughout this whole process and just want to, walk through. Kurt Hoyer, one of my mentors, has gone through the facility a few times, and with his connections at Mid-State Technical College, bringing in, new recruits, and kind of showcasing, what's going on here in our hometown in Wood County. He's gone through several times, and he went through this process when he was sheriff, around 2000, and it didn't pass then on the finance part, but the county board then knew the need was there, and the need continued until we got here today. But big shout out to Kurt and still wanting to be involved in this whole process. And like I said, there's a lot of people out there that we remain in contact with, and I always look at it, with the retiree, when somebody gives their 20, 25, 30 plus years of their life to public service, especially in Wood County, they're always going to be part of the team, and they're always welcome to come back and see the place, hang out with the staff. I mean, you have to look at that's a big chunk of somebody's life. And, and we've always talked about the mental health and wellness of us and how important that is, but you can't forget about the people that once they do, close that chapter, open up another one, you still have that all those chapters behind you from the career that you just can't walk away from. And I think it's very important for, if they want to, for everybody's own mental health after they get into that retirement age, they still have a connection with our team. And people know that. Anybody that retires from our agency knows that they're always welcome to come back anytime they want. And most recently, and you had Doug on here last month, Doug Christensen is now retired, and that was a tough one, for me personally, because he started after me, and we had, a strong working relationship and friendship, and that foundation of the mental health stuff that we've talked about. That's huge. And at his retirement party, I brought up, you look at somebody's legacy, and a legacy is something that I look at. What did you do, not for yourself, but for other people within the organization and the community? And he crushed it. You look at that mental health picture that just was not there at the start of our careers, and then to really focus on that as somebody that is at the ground level as a deputy sheriff, building upon the needs of the community, and then to now take it one step beyond that, the needs of the organization. And that was so it was tough at moments, but it was a great thing to brag about, and a great thing to say. That's a legacy. Yeah. The impact when you can truly say you made a difference in people's lives, that says a lot about a person that wears a uniform. So we're going to miss him, but he built the foundation that will never go away, no matter who is in the next positions that we have. It's established. I don't see it ever changing, because that's what the community expects, and that's what we expect as public servants to be taken care of as well.
On that level, it's certainly a positive, and there's no lowering the bar. On the mental health end of things, I talk about this a lot. There's no putting the genie back in the bottle. We've gotten to this point, and we're not going back. That's very encouraging, and it's because of people like him that really got us to this place, and like yourself and your staff, and people who are like-minded and thinking on this level. Throughout this process, you mentioned this earlier, we've been talking about this for years. One of the things you mentioned was, referencing or talking to other people who in other communities that had jails built or were working to. Now that we're at this point, do you think you'll be able to do that for others? Like our friends in Point or some of these other places that are looking for that, you'll be able to kind of do that for others now.
Yeah, what's been happening recently is, leadership over in Portage County has come and looked at our facility and asked a lot of questions. What did it take to get to the point, that we're at? And they're under very similar circumstances, housing out of county, a jail that was built in the late 80s. A lot of those things are similar. I think what happened there is, some changes with their county board, and they had to reel it back and talk about it some more so people, can understand that, that the need is there and you can't walk away from it. I'm sorry. A jail is a necessity. And it's really what you do with it when you build it, and you have to look at it. What are the community needs, and how does that fit within your community? Like for us, part of it is not just the inmate population, and not the out of county housing. That's a big cost, but you have to look at the other needs of the community as well, and that's where Susanna does an awesome job. She oversees most of our inmate programming, and going out into the community and saying, okay, what do we need? To help people that are incarcerated. They're an inmate. They made a mistake. They're going to be in jail for a while and do their time, but they're going to go back to the community. You're going to get released. All right. Now, what can we do while you're in custody to help that individual out to make sure that they don't come back? And that's a big priority of ours. And she does an awesome job of, I think what we found out is, there's a lot of people out in not just Wisconsin Rapids, but throughout the entire county that want to come in and help. And that was something that I learned in the position that I have now, being that I wasn't a corrections background, but I've learned a lot throughout the years of being sheriff, that there's people out there that want to come in and help. A lot of our churches want to come in. But we have to sometimes put the brakes on and say, okay, we have to go through guidelines. Mm-hmm. People have to pass background checks. And now we have a facility, which is really exciting as we can expand our inmate programming. But there's so many partnerships out there that, I didn't really know. Mid-State's been phenomenal. We've got something that we're building upon just with the culinary program, that they're going to be able to come in, and inmates, if they want to, and work in our trustee program, they'll have the ability to earn credit. And I think that's pretty huge.
Yeah.
And that's just one thing.
There's another thing about this I think that'll be interesting as we go on is that we see the positives now. There's always stuff that develops throughout the process. Mm-hmm. We're like, oh, I didn't see that coming. There's another positive or something like that. And certainly being a real in-time example to other communities of what the positive of doing something like this and investing in your community like this and investing in the safety of our law enforcement as well as our community with something like this. Speaking with Sheriff Shawn Becker, we have Lieutenant Wagner and Lola in with us, along with our friends from Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. We're heading to halftime. We'll come back and have some more fun on Midday Magazine here at WFHR. Welcome back, everybody, to Midday Magazine, April 2nd, 2025. I have your host, James, here in part 2 of our interview with Sheriff Shawn Becker in our Wood County Sheriff's Department. We have Lieutenant Wagner in with us with Lola, as well as our good friends from Wisconsin Rapids Community Media hanging out with us today. Shawn, where'd you want to go next? We got a couple of directions we can go here.
Yeah, just so the public's aware, if you haven't visited the courthouse yet, the new entrance now is open. That started on Monday the 24th, so we're already over a week into that. We decided to do that. Everything was ready. We got everybody moved into the new jail, so figured that was the next step. And Lieutenant Brian Peterson, who oversees the security services for the courthouse, did a really nice job, organizing that as well. Getting the opportunity to, hey, this is going to happen. It did. So just so the public's aware, the new entrance, there isn't a big change. It's still on the front or the, let me get directions here, west side of the courthouse. It just moved a little bit to the south, but you can't miss it. There's signage out there. So it's another nice, for me, a focal point into coming into the facility. The way it was designed, you're now walking into a glass atrium, so you come in through security, you go through the scanning process, and you see the new sheriff's department on the right, and the jail, and then the courthouse done over to the left. But it was a really nice way to combine the both buildings. So I think when people come in there, just come in and enjoy it. If you need to go in the courthouse, just go through the scanning stuff and head to the left. If you need to see somebody at the sheriff's department, go to the right, and we'll help you out. But that's just an important thing to note. If you haven't been in the courthouse, I'd stop by, even if you don't really have a reason. If you want to stop over and just see it, I encourage people to do that.
Yeah. Also wanted to mention the CIT and touch on that.
Yeah, as we talk about, Doug, and the mental health initiatives that we've incorporated throughout the many years, we're on our 14th class of C.I.T, crisis intervention training that NAMI supports. And that's, very, very impressive. And again, that started off with that conversation with Doug Christensen and Katie Says, who at the time was overseeing crisis, and just to see it build. 14 classes with an average about 25 law enforcement officers or corrections officers, dispatchers. You look at the impact throughout the years of this extremely important training. I think it's probably the most important train law enforcement can get after they start in their career. But you do the math. 25 average, 14 classes. We're over 350 people. Somewhere around there. And then you look at those 300 and some people that are now at working at law enforcement agencies with what they learned and they're applying it. Look at the impact that has. It's just
indescribable.
It's just another awesome thing to brag about. And then that partnership that we have with NAMI and then getting to, we've got 2 deputies that were named by NAMI C.I.T officers of the year. One obviously being Doug Christensen, and then another one, Alicia Brundage, at our department, based upon the work that they've learned and the work they do out in our community and being recognized by NAMI. That's huge, and it's all part of what we've been doing with C.I.T throughout the years. And now with this class, which I felt was extremely impressive, is talking with Katie, and Alicia's helping organize the class since Doug retired. Now we've got people representing fire departments coming into it. Just so you're looking at the outreach is not now exclusive to law enforcement, but the importance of this training now has reached out into fire and EMS, first responders. So just another just an awesome thing that's going on. I'm looking forward to this training continuing. And next year will be our 15th class, and just look at how many people have been impacted by the training. We've gotten all of our sworn deputies through it, and we're probably about halfway through our corrections officers.
Yep.
Right on.
Yeah.
All of us in this room are maybe from different generations or different ages, but we all grew up with in the era of, just rub some dirt on it and walk it off.
Yeah.
No matter what we're talking about, a broken leg or a bad day, that's what you did. I think that while we can take a lot of positives from this in society, to hear different industries and different areas where it's now happening there too, is these other wins we can take when it comes to this subject, when it comes to mental health and focusing on that. I think one of the things that I have admired and I've appreciated so much is I come from a family, we've been talking about this since day one, mental health and how it means. My mother and father were affected by this in different ways. But to hear the traditional strong jobs, the traditional jobs of where we have people in this industry, we know those are tough people. We know sheriff, lieutenant here, tough individuals. They're not doing this job without it and all that. To hear people from your industry talking about the importance of mental health, how it affects, how it bleeds into your jobs, that gets people caring that may not otherwise. And it's such a brave thing to do. And I don't use that word lightly. I think we use it too much in society nowadays. I use it where I think it fits. I find it brave. I find it to be one of the stronger things you guys could do for yourselves and your colleagues. But to take that also to the initiative of what we've talked about, our oldest conversation of ending that revolving door.
Yep.
Instead of just being, hey, you messed up, let's add 10 years to your sentence. That'll teach you. No. Why did you do this? What's going on with you? What's going on between those ears? This is how we make a better society. This is how we do these things. And we're in the ground, level of this. And we're doing this now, so hopefully future generations, this is nothing for them to think about. This is just everyday life, thinking about mental health and thinking about how this affects this industry or that industry. You mentioned legacy earlier, and it got me thinking about yours a little bit. And I hope that, because you ain't going nowhere, but I do hope that you have a chance to take, again, these little wins from time to time. And just even maybe in the morning as you're putting on your gear and you have a second to think about this and like, man, we've accomplished some stuff. There's work to be done. I'm not saying that, you know, you don't get to take your foot off the gas, sir. But I hope you know, the new jail or some of these things that we're talking about, this isn't just stuff that helps here or there or one niche part of our industry. We're talking about our society. Our community, this helps. Not just you and your staff, not just us as citizens, all of the above. It feels good, and I don't think we often get a chance to just take a step back and have that perspective of, all right, we've done something here. We're accomplishing something here.
Yeah, and you nailed it with it's not my legacy, it's a we thing. It's what did we do? You know, that's what's important to me in the position that I have. It's what we have done, you know, throughout the years of anybody's career. You know, what have we done? You know, it's interesting with the move, finding things. You know, being here, coming up close to 30 years, you know, somebody brought a box of stuff over to me that I didn't know even existed. And then you find your old resumes and, you know, other things that I was part of, you know, during my career, like our special response team, and finding pictures of that and stuff. And Scott Drew, who's, you know, recently going to be retired from the Port Arthur Police chief position, and great friend of mine, and his career starting at the Sheriff's Department and then working together, you know, from training to being on the special response team, and then seeing, you know, a friendship, you know, all part of that. It makes you think of how quick a career goes by you. But no, it's a we thing, you know, and if you can't have an attitude like that, you're not going to accomplish anything.
Yeah. Well said. You know, real quick, I know you had some other things we wanted to get to and want to talk about the rescue raffle and some of that. When we were talking about the new jail, I had thought of something, and I'm not sure we got a chance to talk with Lieutenant Wagner about, with the new facility and some of the new things that are in there. I don't know, forgive me if we have touched on this before, but is there new parts of the new jail for the K9 unit? Is there anything new addition with that for your end of things, for your department?
Well, with Lola, she's been able to, we've been able to go into more of the pods since moving in. The setup is just it's easier, it's more friendlier for her to move from block to block, or pod to pod, I should say now. But it's just, there's a bigger area for the inmates to, you know, be around her. Yeah. And she's she's adapted well too.
I was going to ask. Yeah, so, it sounds like it.
Yes, she's got a lot more freedom in there.
Animals are a great leading example of that, I think, sometimes. I've noticed this a lot when you move into a new building or new house or something like that, and the animal adjusts so quickly, because animals, that's just what they do. They adjust. They adapt so well. They can, whether you realize it or not, or it's subconscious or not, it can sometimes be a really good example for others, and hopefully for the inmates there in that transition there. I appreciate that, Lieutenant. I didn't mean to throw that at you, but I was curious because we highlighted so many interesting and really important parts of this new jail. I figured there was something there with the K9 unit, and that's great to hear.
Right. We're also going to be, I mean, we know that one of the big reasons why we built this facility is to offer programming to hopefully stop inmates with the revolving door part. But we're hoping that Lola will be able to be involved in some of those groups and programmings, and use her wherever we can throughout the facility.
And we had Lance in last week, and we're putting a lot of our focus on this and some of the advantages of this new jail with programming and the opportunities that will bring up when it comes to this. And again, I keep thinking of, for every great thing we're talking about, there's stuff maybe a year, maybe months from now that we're going to come across and be like, oh, there's this we can do too, or something like that. Because it always happens with these things where we have the idea of, well, this is the list of positives we have, and as we go along through this, like, oh, this is a positive too, we can add that to the list and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, we have a group that are involved in putting a programming day together for the inmates, and it's pretty in-depth, but the inmates are going to be busy from the time they wake up until they go to bed at night, and they're going to be having different organizations come in and meet their physical, needs that they will have in the community, and then they're going to meet, if they need spiritual help or, other kind of skills to be learned to go out and use when they leave.
I think almost anybody out there, whether it was when you were in school or you're working a job and you're just staring at that clock and you're just waiting for it to speed up. And of course, a second takes hours and everything. So I bring that up in part for anybody out there who has never been incarcerated and may not know what that feeling is like. Part of how you get through those moments is you get numb. You're just going to try to get through the end of the school day, just get to the end, hit 3 o'clock, that kind of thing, or just get to the dinner bell and, be able to finish your day of work. And then there is this kind of existence of living and knowing what your day is day in and day out. And I'm not bringing any of this up for sympathy. Everybody has a price, that you have an accountability to have and stuff. And I'm not moving past that. But in order to get through that, oftentimes, and I'm talking to my father about this a lot, that you get numb. And you almost get to a point where you forget you're human. You forget what it is to be a human being in society. And again, when we come back to this revolving door thing, inmates that are in there for too long or filling out their sentence, this can happen more and more likely. Things like Lola, things like what we're talking about with these programs and everything, they're reminders that you're a citizen. You got a job to do. You got to get through this, pay your dues, and come out of here and be a better person and add to society. That's what we all agree to when we become adults. And you're reminded of that. Mm-hmm. And I know that might not mean much to some, but it means so much to this process of just the simple reminder that you got a life to live. You are a human being. And these programs, or Lola, or so much of this does that, which, again, leads to hopefully this person coming out of there, never going back, becoming a taxpayer, helping you with your taxes and your day-to-day life and working in the industries. This has a domino effect, and it leads to a better society.
I think that one of the big things that Lola has been able to do with some of the inmates that are there that are very put walls up, resistant to change, and just very angry. Mm-hmm. They start petting her. A lot of them cry, show a lot of emotions. They start talking about their dogs pets at home or pets that they've had in the past. And then it kind of takes those walls down, and they become more receptive to the idea of getting some help while they're incarcerated.
That's appreciate that. Thank you, Lieutenant. I appreciate you mentioning that. That's great. Sheriff, I know that you had some other things you wanted to touch on.
Yeah, we've got a raffle coming up. It is supporting the Wood County Rescue Unit, a volunteer unit. It's a gun raffle. It's going on right now. $25 a ticket. We'll start that raffle. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen it before. They do a nice job, drawing the names, kind of throwing their own spin on it. But just highlight that, I just said they're a completely volunteer organization. And the unfortunate thing is that there's costs that come up with the rescue unit, and the community's been extremely generous. Same with the Legacy Foundation, and what the biggest need right now is a new rescue truck. And it seems like yesterday when we had gotten one, I think it was over 10 years ago, and Ho-Chunk had been extremely generous and helped us with that project. And I know Legacy this go around has been very supportive of a new truck, and the calendar is something that we've been doing the last few years, and we're hoping to sell this out. And the money that we raise from this calendar raffle will be put towards the new truck. So, again, very gracious to the community, and very thankful to the rescue unit. They're completely volunteers. And their response area is primarily Southwood County. However, the last 2 years they've done a really nice job of outreaching to, it's the Wood County Sheriff's Department Rescue Unit. Well, that encompasses the entire county. And so just a relationship building that has been going on throughout the last several years of just working with all the fire departments. And now Rescue has some unique equipment that other volunteer fire departments don't have. And they could, call us at any time if they need something. They're a big part of Project Lifesaver. They have the transmitters. So if there's any Project Lifesaver call out within the county, they're going to it. We've gone up to Marshfield for kids that have been missing for a short time and helped locate them. So huge need for our community. So if you can get out and support us with that, like I said, $25 calendar raffle ticket. You can pick them up at the Sheriff's Department if you want to stop down, or give me a call and we'll set you up with one, or go on Rescue's Facebook page. We can help you out there and how you can purchase one.
Looks like the drawing starts May 1st, so you got a
Correct.
little time here to get ready to get those. And every day they're able to win a different gun here, it looks
a
like?
different gun every day.
I got to be honest with you
And
guys, I'm staring at number 11. That looks
11.
really interesting. What is number 11 there on that
That
one?
is a revolver.
It is, okay. Yeah,
Viper.
I'm a Westerns kid. I grew up on Westerns, so of course I'm going to see that one right away. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's I don't have my glasses on. I'm
Yeah,
surprised you saw that. You got better eyesight than me, but yep. And there's another one on the 15th that's a revolver, but
Nice.
they're all different firearms that are on there. So there's no same firearm. And if you do get picked, your name goes back into the raffle, so you can get picked multiple times. But we've been doing that several years. Shout out to the Trading Post being a partner with us. That's been going very well. And just always appreciate the community support.
Any opportunity to shout out the Trading Post, love to be able to do that. Love that place. And really appreciate everybody with the work that they put into something like this. We again, one of those things we don't get to use, a verb we don't get to use often enough with you guys. This is a fun one. This is a fun raffle. This is a fun thing to be a part of. And a great way for the community to add to people that they would like to, but don't always know how to.
Right.
You know, I don't think that there are many people out there that aren't thankful for the service you guys do, what you guys put into it, but don't always know how to word that or how to, there's also not a ton of volunteer or opportunities, necessarily, or some of those things. Here is a great one every year that we kind of have an opportunity to, whether you win something or not, you win just by buying that raffle ticket.
Yeah. Yeah, we should have the new truck sometime towards the end of this year. That's in the process of being built. And like I said, that's where the funds this year will be going towards. So it's always appreciative that we get that community support.
Well, and hopefully, it's obvious to the audience how important that truck is and what it does for you and your job and everything. But another part of that, and I certainly think of working at the Family Center and thinking about, we have Touch a Truck and that new vehicle shows up and maybe it sparks an interest in a young person or something like that. Like, the added advantages with these things are always very interesting to me. There's the stuff we see, and then there's that stuff we just don't always see, and that could be really helpful with that. So it's a great investment in your community, buying one of these raffle tickets, and you might win something pretty cool. And that revolver right there, I'm staring at that one.
Old school right there.
I gotta get one of those tickets, or see what happens there. Okay. As we're wrapping up, got about a minute left. Anything else you wanted to touch on?
Shout out to our Acacia Foundation that does the fundraising for our K9 unit. Craig Carpenter has stepped aside from he's one of our board members and he's one of our founding members. So a big shout out to Craig and the vision that he's had, for several years. The foundation started many, many years ago with many Mason members. And he's, like I said, was a founding member working with, then Sheriff Thomas Reichert. And they had goals, like, hey, we want to raise this amount of money because then, we'll always be able to, provide a K9 at really zero cost to the Will County Sheriff's Department budget. Well, we have far, far exceeded that. The money that we've raised, especially in the last couple of years, have been putting us in a position that, hey, we have 5 dogs. That's a lot for an agency the size of ours, but they're all supported by the community. And the big one is here with us, Lola. When we really looked at focusing on the mental health initiatives, how do we, get our K9 unit into fitting with those initiatives? And it's a great story. I know I probably have 30 seconds, but when we got the opportunity to get Lola, sitting, talking with Susanna and where was that going to fit, it's perfect for our jail. Just absolutely perfect. And then Susanna does an awesome job getting out in the community, not only just, working in the jail, but getting out and, doing presentations has been just a huge thing. So big shout out to Craig. Thank you so much for what you've done with this foundation. You're a big part of why we're in the direction that we're going. So thank you to everybody that's part of the Acacia Foundation as well.
Continuing that, thanks. We want to thank our great friends over at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media hanging out with us the past hour. Always appreciate that. Get to YouTube, subscribe to their page, Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, and support local. Lieutenant Wagner, always good to see you. Thank you so much again for being in with us, and you know how much I appreciate Lola. I'm surprised I was able to pull this interview off, actually. I was a little surprised, but we appreciate you, Lola, as well, and a big appreciation to you, sir. Sheriff Becker, always appreciate the time and what you guys are doing in our community. Be safe out there. We'll talk again next month.
Thank you.
You bet.
And we'll have more Midday Magazine lined up for you coming up here at WFHR, locally grown radio.